Lana Torres was practically sprinting through the hotel lobby, one hand lifting her bridesmaid dress, the other gripping her clutch, and her high heels feeling more like instruments of torture than elegant footwear. Each step was a near disaster, and her mind kept screaming, "I'm going to be late!" The plan had been so clear: arrive early, help her sister prep for the big day, and nail her role as the perfect bridesmaid. But life had other ideas. The taxi was late, traffic was insane, and she nearly got run over at the hotel entrance. Now the elevator was packed, and she had no choice but to climb 13 flights of stairs. Red-faced and breathless, Lana pushed through the final hallway. Just a few more steps to the ballroom. She could already hear soft music leaking through the grand doors. And then, bam! She crashed into something solid, or rather, someone. Her bag hit the floor, one heel slipped off, and she was about half a second away from planting her face on the hotel's plush red carpet. A strong arm caught her waist just in time. A wave of expensive cologne hit her senses, and for a split second, she forgot even her name. "Please tell me I didn't just barrel into an elderly man," she muttered. "Sorry to disappoint, but I'm definitely not elderly." A deep, steady voice replied, and her heart missed a beat. Lana looked up, and in that moment, the world stopped turning. Lana stood frozen, her hands still pressed against the man's chest. For a few seconds, her brain refused to function. Their eyes met, cool, piercing blue, sharp as if they could read her thoughts. Oh no, he was absurdly handsome. Dark hair perfectly styled, a tailored black suit that fit like it was sewn directly onto him, and eyes that didn't just see her, they examined her. "I'm guessing you're in a hurry," he said, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "You'd be guessing right." Lana stepped back, tugging her dress down in a flustered attempt to regain dignity, but she couldn't move. Her heel was caught in the hem of her gown. "Perfect." She muttered under her breath and bent down, but the man crouched faster. In one smooth motion, he freed the fabric from her shoe, like it was something he did every day. "You may now continue your suicide mission," he said dryly, his gaze still locked on her. "I was already on it." She scooped up her bag and hurried away, resisting every instinct to look back. But even without turning around, Lana felt it. That look. "Don't look back. Don't look back," she repeated to herself like a prayer. She slipped into the bridesmaids' lineup just as the ceremony music began. The groom appeared, all smiles in his custom tux. Everyone's eyes were glued to the front, except Lana's. Hers drifted to the other side, the groomsman's row. He was there. Lana tried to keep her expression neutral, but internally she was spiraling. She could still feel Nathan Cole's gaze on her, steady, sharp, almost unshakably calm. She leaned toward the bridesmaid beside her and whispered, "Who is he? He looks kind of intense." "You mean Nathan Cole?" her friend replied, raising an eyebrow. "CEO of Cole Capital, top real estate firm in the US, billionaire. Super private, and from what I've heard, not someone you want to mess with." Lana froze. She couldn't tell if she was panicking or mortified, or both. Part of her wanted to crawl under the nearest table. "I ran into him, full speed, in a hallway, and called him an old man. They say," her friend added in a hushed voice, "he can end someone's career with a single phone call." Great. Not only had she knocked into him like a hurricane, she'd been late, flustered, and possibly trampled his ego. Lana inhaled deeply, trying to focus on the ceremony unfolding before her. Her sister, radiant in white, was saying her vows. All eyes were on the bride and groom, all except Lana's. When she glanced sideways, Nathan was still watching her, calm, silent, like he was studying her. Each blink, each breath, each flinch. Why me, she wondered. She was just a regular interior designer, constantly fighting for recognition in a competitive field. A man like him, powerful, composed, unreadable, had no reason to pay her any attention. Maybe he's just curious, she told herself. But deep down, Lana knew that look wasn't just curiosity. Monday. Lana walked into the office clutching a large coffee, 2 layout plans, and the determination to start her week fresh. The wedding was over, she reminded herself. Time to reset, focus, and forget about certain piercing blue eyes. Today was the big day, presenting the concept for a luxury beachfront resort. It was the most important project their firm had ever handled. If the pitch went well, Lana knew she had a real shot at becoming lead designer. She stepped into the conference room where her colleagues were already seated. Mr. Jenkins, the firm's director, smiled at her. "Big opportunity, Lana. This client's a major one." She nodded, opened her laptop, and took a deep breath. And then the door opened. A man walked in, holding a file, dressed in a storm gray suit that looked straight out of a fashion campaign. That familiar frame, that familiar presence. Lana's heart sank. Nathan Cole. He took the seat at the head of the table without even glancing at her. Cold, professional, every inch the CEO. "Shall we begin?" he asked, voice calm, low, and infuriatingly in control. No one else looked surprised. Clearly, they all knew who today's client was, except her. The presentation became a battlefield. Every slide, every rendering, Nathan dissected it with precision. Why this wood finish for the relaxation area? How does the lighting concept avoid disrupting the ambiance? Have you considered international accessibility flow? He wasn't rude, but it was clear. He was testing her. Lana held her ground, answering every question with as much composure as she could muster. Outwardly calm, internally spiraling. When the meeting ended, the team filed out. She stayed behind, packing her materials. Then his voice came from behind her. "You did better than I expected." She turned. Nathan was standing near the door watching her. "Lucky for me, I didn't know you'd be the client," she said, her voice sharper than intended. "If I had, I might have skipped the whole thing." He tilted his head. "I thought you would, but I also knew you wouldn't walk away from a challenge." "You were testing me?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "No," Nathan replied. "I was seeing how long you could hold your ground with me." She drew in a slow breath. He was not just complicated, he was calculated. And the worst part? She wasn't sure she wanted to escape it. Lana couldn't remember how long she stood still after Nathan walked into the room. It felt like time had frozen. Everything around her blurred, except for the image of that man. Calm, composed, effortlessly taking the head seat like he was born to command any room he entered. Her heart pounded so loud she feared everyone could hear it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she switched to the first slide. But her voice, somehow, remained steady, at least on the surface. She didn't dare look at him, but she knew he was there. Every word he spoke, every sharp question he threw, felt like a blade slicing through the confidence she'd worked so hard to build. And Nathan? He was terrifyingly composed, as if this surprise encounter didn't faze him at all, as if that collision in the hotel hallway had never happened. Lana felt small, unmoored, but she clung to professionalism like it was the last thing keeping her afloat. Lana had lost count of how many sips of coffee she'd taken since the morning meeting, partly because the caffeine helped her stay focused, mostly because she didn't know what else to do with her slightly trembling hands. All day, one thing was crystal clear. Nathan Cole was playing a psychological game. No inappropriate comments, no dramatic gestures, but he always appeared at just the right moment, stood just close enough, asked questions that landed just where it hurt. It was like he knew exactly what made her lose control. Lana felt like she was constantly under scrutiny whenever Nathan was near. He never said anything overtly harsh, never raised his voice, but every question, every glance carried the weight of someone measuring her, assessing, analyzing. And the part that frustrated her most, she couldn't tell if he was attacking or if he actually cared. Sometimes she caught a softness in his eyes when he noticed her exhaustion after hours of work. Once he quietly pulled out a chair for her during a meeting, subtle enough that no one else noticed. But moments later, he'd hit her with a sharp question about the logic of her design choices, forcing her to defend every line on her screen. She couldn't figure this man out. Lana was growing tired of guessing, tired of staying composed while her pulse spiked, tired of pretending she didn't feel anything when her entire mind was tangled in confusion over whether this man was driving her crazy or making her care more than she should. At lunch break, she went to the water dispenser. Seconds later, he was beside her, close enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence. "You frown when you're thinking," he said, his eyes fixed on his cup. "And you sneak up behind people like a shadow," she shot back, not looking at him. "Occupational habit," he smirked. "Or maybe I just like observing how people react." Lana turned to him. This time she really looked. Their eyes met. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy. "You're more interesting than I expected," he added. "Because I crashed into you?" she said dryly. "No, because you pretend nothing happened, when it clearly did." Lana took a breath and turned away. "I'm here to work, not to be analyzed." Nathan nodded, set his glass down, but his gaze never left her. "Then let me simplify it," he said, voice lower, softer. "Tonight, I'll review the detailed design drafts. You might benefit from some direct feedback." "You're inviting yourself?" Lana asked, trying to sound neutral. "No, I'm offering an option. Whether you take it, that's up to you." He walked away, leaving her alone with a cold glass of water and a heart racing far too fast. And the worst part, a small part of her wanted to say yes. The office was unusually quiet that evening. Light from the city outside filtered through the windows, casting scattered reflections across the meeting table. Lana sat alone, adjusting every detail on her design mock-up. She hadn't responded to Nathan's offer. No yes, no no, just silence. Then, like it was scripted, the door opened. He walked in. No knock, no question. "You're still here." "Work's not done," Lana replied, eyes still on the screen, trying to sound indifferent. Nathan stepped closer. "I thought you'd go home early, to avoid me." "Not everyone runs from discomfort." He didn't react, just pulled out a chair and sat across from her. The silence between them thickened with each breath. "I didn't come for the design," he said, voice low but direct. Lana looked up, frowning. "Then why did you come?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze locked onto hers, intense, searching. "Because you make me lose control." She let out a dry laugh. "Sounds like I'm a problem." "No, you're an exception." The words stopped her cold. For a moment, her heartbeat faltered. She stood up, walking toward the door. "I don't have time for power games, Nathan. This isn't a game." He stood too, following. "I don't know when this got serious, but I'm done pretending it isn't." Lana turned around. Now only a few feet separated them. "You're a client," she said slowly. "We work together. This is not a place for feelings." "What if I'm not your client anymore?" She froze. "What are you saying?" "Let's say I pull out of the project. No business, no boundaries, just two people. And you'd do that for what? To do this." He stepped in, his hand lifted gently to her face, eyes never leaving hers. Lana wanted to push him away. She truly did, but her body betrayed her. The kiss came fast, unexpected, yet unhurried. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't demanding, it was a question. And for a second, Lana almost said yes with her lips. But then she pulled away. "No," she whispered, breath shaky. "We can't." Nathan didn't stop her, but his gaze held the same intensity, as if he already knew the truth. "Because you don't want this? Or because you're scared?" She didn't answer. She just opened the door and walked out. And for the first time, Lana didn't know if she was running from him or from herself. In the days that followed, Lana avoided him, quietly, deliberately, and with precision. She changed her work schedule, arriving an hour earlier and staying later just to make sure Nathan was gone. In meetings, she never sat near him. When she had to speak to him, her tone was curt, professional, and distant. No eye contact, no smiles, no room for anything unspoken. Nathan didn't fight it. He didn't push, didn't corner her, didn't mention anything from before. But his gaze never truly left. He was always there, silent, watchful, never demanding, but never gone either. And somehow that drained her more than any confrontation ever could. She knew he was waiting, not for an answer, but for a truth, one she wasn't ready to admit, even to herself, until Friday. A 3-hour meeting on project progress. Lana barely spoke, but her eyes drifted to him more than once, just to make sure he was still there. After the meeting, everyone filed out. Lana gathered her documents, thinking she'd made a clean escape, until she heard the familiar footsteps behind her. "Lana!" She straightened and turned. Their eyes met. Nathan didn't step closer. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, calm but deliberate. "I'm pulling out of the project," he said evenly. "By next week, I won't be involved anymore." She froze. "What are you talking about?" "It's already arranged. My shares will be transferred to another partner. I won't have any say in this anymore." "Why?" "Because then, you'll have no reason left to avoid me." Lana gripped her folder tighter. Her chest ached. This wasn't about business. This wasn't about the project. There was no barrier left between them now. He had just removed the last wall himself. "You think that'll change anything?" she asked, voice tight. "No," Nathan said, stepping a little closer. "I don't think it'll make you choose me. I just want to know that if you don't, it's because you don't want to, not because you couldn't." Lana couldn't respond. Everything she'd bottled up hit her all at once, rising like a storm inside her. She had controlled everything: her words, her behavior, the distance, her schedule. But she couldn't control what had just happened. Lana froze. Every word from Nathan hit her like a wave crashing into her chest. He said he would pull out of the project, a simple, calm statement. But to her, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. He had just torn down the last barrier, the only thing she had left to hold on to. She was used to distance, used to keeping emotions within the boundaries of professionalism, used to saying this can't happen to protect herself. But now, with that final reason gone, she didn't know what to hold on to anymore. Her emotions surged like a dam breaking. Confusion, anger, fear, and somewhere, buried deep, hope. Lana turned away, but her legs felt like lead. She was terrified he might stop her, and even more terrified that he wouldn't. She wasn't in control anymore. Not of her job, not of her heart. And that was terrifying. The next day, Lana didn't show up at the office. No email, no message, no explanation. She simply vanished. Her phone stayed silent. Messages from coworkers went unread. She sat alone in her small apartment, surrounded by suffocating stillness, staring blankly at the computer screen she hadn't touched since morning. Her mind was chaos. Every ounce of logic, every wall she had carefully built. Nathan had broken it down with just one sentence. "You'll have no reason left to avoid me." Simple, clear, without blame. And that's what scared her the most. Until evening came, and the doorbell rang. She hadn't planned on answering, but then she heard his voice, calm, steady, familiar, just beyond the door. "I know you're in there." Lana stepped out and opened it. Nathan stood there, no tie, sleeves rolled up, no anger in his eyes, only truth. "You disappeared all day. I needed space, and I'm done waiting." Silence. He looked at her. No more masks. "I love you, Lana." He didn't shout it. There was no grand speech, just a quiet statement that shattered every defense she had left. She didn't speak. She stepped forward, then another step. Nathan didn't wait for permission. He reached for her, and this time, when their lips met, it wasn't confusion, it wasn't hesitation, it was truth. Lana didn't know what she felt, relief, fear, or something deeper. She just knew she didn't want to run anymore. She couldn't, because for once, her heart had finally spoken. Nothing changed dramatically, but nothing was the same either. After that night, Lana and Nathan slipped into something in between. No one defined it, no one labeled it, but every hallway glance, every brush of fingers during meetings, every shared breath over a blueprint. They all carried a code only the two of them understood. It was like an unspoken game. Lana kept things professional. Nathan remained composed. There was no visible breach of workplace decorum. But once the office lights dimmed and the last door closed, they became just themselves. Nathan would swing by her office with a warm cup of tea. Lana would linger near the parking lot just to walk a few slow circles with him under the stars. No words, just presence. They learned to love each other quietly. Lana didn't know if what she felt was happiness or something more fragile. There were moments, especially in meetings, when she'd feel his gaze across the room while everyone else discussed budgets or construction timelines. And in those moments, it felt like the world narrowed down to just him and her. But beneath it all, worry still lingered. They hadn't gone public. No hand-holding in the halls, no introductions as a couple. Lana didn't know where this was headed, or if once it saw the light, it would survive. She hadn't told anyone, not out of fear, but because she wanted to protect what was still tender, at least until she was sure. And Nathan? He never pushed. He simply stayed, like a silent promise that when she was ready, he'd still be there. One late afternoon, as she sorted through her design files in an empty conference room, Nathan walked in. He didn't speak, just placed a small pastry box on the table. "You skipped lunch," he said matter-of-factly. Lana looked up and smiled. It was a small smile, but it settled something in her heart. She hadn't said, "I love you" yet. She hadn't asked, "What are we?" But in his eyes, she saw clearly. Some things didn't need words. Days turned into weeks. They fell into a quiet rhythm, private, gentle, unspoken. Lana didn't know what Nathan was planning. All he said was, "Dress nicely tonight." No meetings, no floor plans, no sudden client briefings. Just him and an invitation. When she stepped onto the rooftop of an upscale hotel, she was met with soft golden lights draping the space, white flowers blooming along a candlelit path, and music floating gently in the warm night air. That's when she knew. This wasn't an ordinary evening. Nathan stood at the end of the walkway, no longer the composed CEO, no longer the man who always watched from a distance. Tonight he was just a man, with emotion in his eyes and no defenses in his voice. As she walked closer, he smiled. "I used to think my life was stable, safe, but then you came in and everything started to feel full of color." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small box and opened it. "Lana Torres, will you marry me?" She didn't answer right away. She cried, not out of shock, not out of fear, but because her heart had never felt more whole. Beneath the lights and flowers, with the city humming quietly below, she nodded. And in that moment, there was no more hesitation. No more running, only a tight embrace, a deep kiss, and a promise to walk every step forward, together. The soft glow of a late summer afternoon bathed the elegant garden where the ceremony took place. Everything had been prepared down to the last detail. White draped chairs, orchids lining the aisle, and music flowing gently through the warm air like it was telling their story. Lana stood behind the wooden doors, her fingers wrapped tightly around her bouquet. The pure white gown hugged her frame gracefully, a sheer veil draping softly over her elegant updo. She took a deep breath, just a few more steps. A few steps toward the man who, on the day they met, had felt like a complete stranger. Too distant, too different, too impossible. And yet here he was, her final destination. The music swelled, the doors opened, all eyes turned toward her, but Lana saw only one man, Nathan, standing at the end of the aisle, his eyes gentle, his smile warm, as if he had waited a lifetime just to see her walk toward him. As she moved closer, memories flashed like a silent film, crashing into him in a hotel hallway, tense meetings, their first kiss, quiet nights with no words, all of it leading to this. They took each other's hands, eyes locked. No long speeches needed. The officiant smiled. "Nathan, do you take Lana to love and cherish, through every moment, every season, from this day forward?" "I do," Nathan said, never breaking his gaze. "Lana, do you take Nathan to walk beside you in love, in trust, and with all the strength that brought you here today?" "I do." Her voice trembled slightly, but it was sure. And then, their first kiss as husband and wife. Applause erupted around them, laughter, cheers, blessings. But for that moment, the world faded to just the two of them. For the first time, there were no barriers, no distance, no fear, just a new beginning, and love, simple, steady, and no longer hidden behind glances or smiles, just hand in hand, and that was enough.